Hi.
We're the Game
Brass.
Hey everybody, we're the Game Brass. I'm Robbie and I play the trumpet.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I play the trombone.
I'm John Stacy and I play horn.
I'm Alex Hill and I play tuba.
I'm John Robert Matz and I also play trumpet.
And I'm Thomas Kresge and I play nothing at all, but I do arrange and mix and produce here at the Game Brass.
And triangle.
Oh, and triangle. Yeah.
And triangle.
That is gonna come.
And you may have noticed we have a special guest with us here, David Wise. David is a celebrated composer working with Rare for many, many years on some of your favorite games, including RC Pro-Am, WWF WrestleMania, as well as its sequels, WrestleMania Challenge, WrestleMania Superstars, Snake Rattle and Roll, Battletoads, and something called Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2. Anyway, here's David Wise. Thank you, David, so much for joining us.
Well, hello, and thank you for inviting me on. So it's very, very nice to be joining you this evening. Well, afternoon.
It's late afternoon for us, incredibly late night over there in the UK, but super wonderful to have you.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
So you've been traveling quite a bit. We were not quite sure where we would catch you because you've been on tour, right? You've been it was Phoenix and then Tokyo. Tell us a little bit about that, if you'd be so kind.
Yeah. So let's see, Phoenix, Arizona. That's with the Dave Wise 5 plus Grant Kirkhope, which is Video Games Rock. So that was that's what we were doing there, and Madonna was playing the night we were there as well. She was opposite, so we waved, but she, didn't hear us. But so that was cool, big video game show. And then I came back, and a few weeks later, I was off to Tokyo to play a show with a couple of comedians who were hosting called Kaminari. So that was kind of cool. I enjoyed that. And 1,500 people at the International Forum in Tokyo. It's good.
That's so cool.
Awesome.
That is fun. And you're off to you said
I'm going to Berlin, so that's called Super Booth, where I get to nerd out as a musician person in the audience, watching various people demonstrate synths, talk about synths, and performing sort of synth bands. So 3 days of synth nerdness, which I'm really looking forward to.
Awesome.
Fantastic. I love it. Is there anything? Is there anything you want to talk about that you've been working on of late outside of your performing?
I'd love to, but I'd have to shoot you all. So
Yeah,
That's the best.
That is
I
the
love
question.
it.
Do you have anything that's come out in fairly recent time that you want to shout out?
I know there were 3 released not so long ago, but which they were re-releases and they were released onto the Switch, but no idea what they were. Somebody pointed them out. There's a lot goes on in my world, so that's great.
And it's kind of some of us are game composers as well, and it's kind of eventually, ultimately, the dream is like you have stuff that like is comes back up so many times, or is a classic that gets re-released and enjoyed by people decades after it came out. So congratulations on that, and also super excited to hear the NDA stuff when it happens.
Yeah, same. So I mean, today was spent, we've done some live recording for this, and I had a bit of a technical problem because it should have been recorded at 48. It was recorded at 44.1. So when I brought it into my project, it changed all the timing to match in. So everything's at the wrong pitch and out of time with each other.
Love it.
Yeah, exactly. And I forgot to take a recent backup. I've got an old backup. So I then spent the next few hours recreating the project.
It's fun. It's so fun.
Yeah, no. So
we've that's a pain that we all know.
Exactly. So my most days are technical problems that need to be solved. And I'm sure anybody who works in game audio has a familiar story every day about solving problems to make audio work. So the chance to think about things that happened 30 years ago are very rare, because what's right in front of you needs solving, because there'll be somebody saying, we need it tonight, Dave.
Well, we appreciate that you made the time to be here with us tonight.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Well,
what about the album itself?
Yeah,
now
Thomas?
that we're on the topic.
Yeah, so here we are to present our latest album, Brassroots, Barrel Brass, a Nature Suite from Donkey Kong Country. You'll notice there's 3 titles in this one title. We'll talk about that in a bit. I want us to start jumping into this. This is a 5-movement suite, basically, of Donkey Kong music for you. So let's jump into our first track. Forest Frenzy from the original Donkey Kong Country, originally composed by Eveline Novakovich. Enjoy. Welcome back. I fixed my mic, everybody. Calm down.
Can you hear him now?
I'm probably audible now, I hope. What I said before was that was Forest Frenzy from Donkey Kong Country, our first movement in this 5-movement suite of Donkey Kong pieces. So we have another album coming out. Spoiler alert. We'll talk about it some more later. And this actually started out as just one track on that album. And there's a reason it's all nature-based. Or rather, the tracks chosen here are all like forest, jungle, that kind of stuff, as opposed to whatever, the industrial stuff or mine carts or whatever else you see in Donkey Kong. And there's a couple of tracks I thought about doing, and everybody else said, no, it has to be the famous one, Sticker Bush. And I said, that's fine, and arranged that. And then arranged 4 others without anybody looking. And just kind of came in and said, hey, I did some more because I wanted to. And so we now we have a second album out of it. So think of this as a spin-off, prequel, preemptive to something bigger coming out later. All of nature brass music. But for now, it's all Donkey Kong.
Yeah, that's such a Game Brass thing to do. Like, I was talking to my wife and she said, wow, you did a small album for once. And I said, yeah, because it was too big for the album it was supposed to be on. We accidentally looped all the way around to making a tiny album, 20 minutes long.
That's we did that with the stuff for Peter McConnell's stuff for
Grim.
For Grim Fandango on Brassylvania. It was like could we do like one track from there, and suddenly we had like a full suite with multiple movements.
And the same thing happened again with Brass Effect, Mass Effect. So,
yep,
it's just classic Game Brass.
Classic. Yep, exactly. Too much nonsense. Too much.
We just like to arrange. A lot of fun music out there. Speaking of, I guess we can move into our next track here. On our.
We should talk about the collaborators that helped out with
idea.
this one.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as you can tell, this is not just the 5 core Game Brass Quintet members, plus music arranged by Thomas. This is actually an 11-piece brass ensemble with 3 percussionists that help bring this Donkey Kong project to life, and also help with the larger project that this Donkey Kong one is a prequel to. I guess there's no point in spoiling that the larger one is called Brassroots. So all of these tracks are recorded by the same sort of instrumentation. We have John Robert Matz on trumpet, Robbie Duguay on trumpet. In the middle, between John Robert and Robbie, is Avery Yonahiro, also known as Jazz at Brass, and I think I saw him in chat earlier playing trumpet. You'll get to hear Avery take a solo a bit later, and that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's rad.
And then our horn section, we have John Stacy, Alana Yee, Jordan Moore, and Jackie Fazekas. Our trombone section, we have myself, Daniel Rumberger, Eric L., and Allison Martin, all rocking the trombone. Allison actually played a bass trombone on this one as well. Yeah. And our tuba player is Alex Hill. As for percussion, we have 3 percussionists that all play a variety of instruments throughout the process of recording. Sometimes, for some tracks, there was a percussion that recorded 2 parts, others not at all. It kind of depends on the track. But all the percussion you hear is played by some combination of Yusuf Rashid, Rahul Vanamali, and Doug Perry. And that is the composition of instruments that make up Brassroots Barrel Brass.
Since we have the opportunity to ask David Wise, I know you didn't compose this last piece, but did you have anything you wanted to say or comment about that Forest Frenzy? Not to put you on the spot, but hey, we have you here.
That's fine. I mean, whilst I was listening to it, because I was, I thought, the brass is very nice. I like brass because it's very dynamic. You can do stuff with live instruments that clearly you can't do with computers. So I thought it gave it a very Indiana Jones kind of feel, which was kind of cool. I like that.
Nice.
It's just got that vibe.
Yeah, that plus like percussion stuff, all the mallet percussion definitely like kind of enhances that too. So a bit more of adventure-y. But on
Yeah,
that note,
definitely. Yeah,
should we roll on?
We should.
I think so.
roll on. Next
let's
up,
do this.
we will have Forest Interlude from Donkey Kong Country 2. This one composed by our guest star here, David Wise. Let's hear it. Hello again. I'll lean further into the mic, guys. I'm sorry I'm so quiet. It's a, I don't know, personality trait. That was Forest Interlude from Donkey Kong Country 2. Again, featuring our 11-piece brass ensemble. I actually specifically wanted a lot of brass again, harkening back to Brassylvania, the good old days, 2019, where we had a 9-piece band. And we can't get smaller. So here we are. Robbie, where's the question about percussion?
Where's the
Oh,
question?
someone just asked what percussion was in the background at various points.
Yeah, that.
I don't know if we want to talk about the Mrindangam.
I'll talk about it. So, Raul Vanamali, one of our esteemed percussionists, currently lives in India. And I was kind of just working with what he actually had available to him. And he has a Indian double-sided drum called a Mrindangam. I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm not sure. But that's what's forming the bass throughout this entire piece. And it's going to come back later as well. The other percussion you heard on that track was... Let's see if I could... I got a picture. Hold on. Brace yourselves.
Try not to break.
Now
the
we
stream.
hope the stream
Yeah,
doesn't
I
break.
try not
Yeah.
to break the stream when I throw this up.
Yeah, just click the stop streaming button. It'll show the picture.
No.
The modern day press Alt F4 to...
Yeah.
Don't press Alt F4.
Oh my gosh, I broke the stream. Okay. There it is. There's the other instruments you heard on that track. Yeah, I guess you guys can't see that. You're all just looking at your
I'm looking
cameras.
at my phone,
Like, there's no reaction. Okay, well, they'll tell you all later.
in 8 to 35 seconds.
Yeah, literally a pot and a pan with a couple drumsticks. I did cycle through a couple to get the right tone though, so Anyway,
It's tough.
I think I said enough. Somebody else take it away, please.
Yeah, so this piece was composed by David Wise, and we were commenting a little bit, amongst ourselves while watching the stream. What can you tell us about Forest Interlude?
Well, let's start with the percussion, shall we? Seeing as we were just talking about the percussion. So I was disappointed to hear that there weren't any actual animal noises in the track. I suppose that would be hard because animal cruelty would be a thing, really. It wouldn't go down well. But in the original, I used bird noises and frogs and lots of other things as part of the percussion track. But yeah, again, the animal cruelty thing kind of stops that. But yeah, nice percussion, and it's nice to hear some strange percussion noises as well, all the way from India. In fact, that's one place I haven't actually been to quite yet. So need to go and do a show in India. I think that's
awesome.
That's definitely has to be organised, really. So if anyone is listening out there and has some nice video game shows in that side of the world, I think it's about time we made it over there.
Sure.
Quite frankly.
Definitely heard the bird noises in it, and that's one of the reasons I was glad Raul had that instrument, because it apparently has a lot of different sounds. Just look it up on YouTube, find a pro player, because you get a lot of like crazy twang sounds and stuff, and I was like, let's get something that can at least do something we're not used to hearing, I guess. Us folks in the US, Canada, wherever we are.
So the other thing you were talking about as well was that sequence where it comes down in pitch before it loops back to the original. We were talking about in the break, and all that chord sequence was a very bodged way of getting back from one chord to the other. Very long-winded way.
Well, it turned out great. Like,
Really,
you were saying, we're just making stuff up and getting paid to do it. So that's great.
Yeah,
Made up
which
the right
is
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, making stuff up as you go along is the nature of the beast. For because people seem to think that you've got this master plan and that you intended it to be like that all the time before you even started. But no such luck. It's just a solution to a problem, and hopefully it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta muddle around until you find a way to make the loop work perfectly, and then you're good.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, most times it doesn't work, but you never get to hear that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's the golden trick with game composing is you don't have to do it perfectly the first time. You can do it terribly 42 times, and then 43 is the one, or you just use only the good parts and throw the rest away.
Yeah. And we have the benefit of 30 years of hindsight and being like, yeah, this piece is great. Not like you at 6 p.m. on a Friday, like, I got to get this out. Like, and it was, it's due tonight. Like, oh no.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But if it wasn't for the last minute, a lot of stuff wouldn't get done.
For sure.
So there's been a lot of last minutes in my life.
That's how it goes. I mean, games in general, right? Like the classic thing is like,
Yeah.
games aren't released, they escape. You run out of time. You got to get it out the door.
Right, yeah.
It's great. Uh,
We love a deadline around here. I sure do. Shall we go on?
yeah, let's
Yeah,
continue.
what's next?
So returning back to Donkey Kong Country, our third movement is Treetop Rock.
I think this is another one
And
of
this is
Evelyne's, I
another
believe.
Eveline
Yeah.
Novakovich composition. Yes. Enjoy. Just kidding. Oops. Played the track again. Pressed the wrong one. But now we're back. For sure. For real. We're on. We're live. That was Treetop Rock from Donkey Kong Country, originally composed by Eveline Novakovich. I will say that that's the track that probably made this whole EP happen. Because when we're planning an album, we kind of need to make sure we're including things that people recognize, the famous tracks, the hits, and even good tracks aren't always hits. And I think that's one that's like people might know, but you wouldn't be your first pick. But I really had ideas for it, I guess. And so decided I had to make a whole album to justify including it on something. And there's actually a little reference in the first 4 bars to Donkey Kong Country 3, if you're into that kind of stuff.
Sneaky.
I can comment that the reason why people might know that track is because the stage that it plays on is really, really hard, and they're forced to do it over and over again. Not like a minecart level, but the amount of precise timing that you have to do with those barrels, it's a challenge.
Yeah, so let's give our guest a moment to speak again. You were commenting about the percussion at the beginning, especially.
Yeah, I like the percussion. Very, very nice sounding. It's a nice arrangement, very good. So, yeah, definitely brings a whole new life to it, which is cool. Good to hear. The other thing that I should mention as well, just in case you didn't know, I used to play in a brass band when I was a kid.
Oh, awesome.
This is
What did you play?
This is big news.
This is
Yeah,
very
I,
awesome.
I played trumpet and flugelhorn, but I was
All right.
flugelhorn or first trumpet. So
Seems to be a requirement for being a rare composer.
yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Must
But,
play trumpet. Excellent. I mean, it's the best, obviously. Clearly.
Yeah, but I think I like the bigger instruments. That like flugelhorn, it's got a bit more soul. It's not as piercing, and it's a bit more pleasing on the ear. It's great as a solo instrument.
Yeah, whenever we get a flugelhorn solo, it is always a treat. Robbie does a really good job, and when I get to play one, I'm so happy. I have a nice 4-valve Getson that I use for that stuff, and it's such a nice dark tone instrument. You can be so expressive with it.
Yeah,
it's good.
but
Flugelhorn.
obviously, with it being a brass ensemble, the brass parts do different parts, the job. So you can't beat having trumpets and piccolo trumpets to really send the percussive elements home and give it a bit of rhythm. But the trombones give such power as well. So often undersold part of the brass section, I think, trombones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're really super fortunate to have the trombone section we have here. It's always nice when we get to flesh things out a bit more, and having the players that we have is just
See, Thomas is super fortunate to have a trombone section that doesn't complain when we get hard parts. Such as
The trumpet section.
I had to play that
complains a
entire
lot.
thing. I had to play that entire line. The trumpets didn't have to play that entire line. They got to get it broken up among the 3 of them, so they could have a nice little shop rest and everything. But no, and I wasn't the only one. Eric and Allison had to play that entire line too.
I should tell a story. I just realized. So when we started planning the Brassroots project in general, we were like, okay, we're going to do a larger ensemble. How many people do we want to have? And I said, okay, let's do 3 trumpets, let's do 4 horns, let's do 2 trombones and a tuba. Okay, great. Daniel and who for trombones? And we're like, okay, we've got Eric L, we've got Allison Martin. Who do we choose? We like them both so much. Let's just have 3 trombones.
Yep.
So then out of the gate, we're like, you know what? It's great. 3 trombones.
It's good. It's way forward.
Love it. And like I said, the trombones, they don't complain. Unlike us trumpets, they seem to complain all the time. I'm sorry. Sorry. Anyhow, shall we roll on?
Yeah, now we're going to move on to the famous one. Here comes the big track that started it all. This, fun fact, was actually arranged over a year ago? In March 20... What year is it? It's 2024. So this was arranged around March of 2023, and then sat around until a few months ago to finally get recorded. And yeah, so we're going to get into Sticker Bush Symphony, a.k.a. Bramble Brass. Bramble
Brass.
Blast.
We should name the album
that. Could have been the name of the album. It could have.
That could have been the name of the album, huh?
I think so. Should have been.
Come on.
Rip. Again, a missed opportunity.
Before we hit play, people are always saying sticker brush, right? Did people ask you about this?
Most days say it's bush, as in it's a bush.
Right.
Yeah.
Bush.
The record is now straight, everyone. It is not sticker brush. That's not a thing.
Until somebody asks tomorrow, when it will be clarified once more. It's a daily thing.
I'm so sorry.
So here it is, the moment you've been waiting for. Sticker Bush Symphony from Donkey Kong Country 2. Originally composed by David Wise, now reimagined by the Game Brass. Enjoy.
Hey, we're back.
And we're still the Game Brass.
We are indeed.
So, Sticker Brush Symphony. That's the piece you're here to listen to. Come on, that's the one of the video game standards, all-time greats.
And it was
so
the
David, you were
hardest one
saying
to
on the break-
arrange here for sure.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. There's just a lot of pressure. You gotta
True.
make it worthwhile. You gotta make sure it's justified to exist alongside the original, and everybody else has their own take on it. You know.
And so you were saying that this piece has been quite popular in Japan because you were just there at that show before a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so they were saying that it's reminiscent of some of their folk songs or traditional folk songs, which I still haven't heard, but I'll take it. You know,
That's great.
I
That's
like
so
the
cool.
piece of music. That's cool. Yeah. And,
I can.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I can hear that. Like that there's an element there that that definitely. I'm not super studied in Japanese folk music, but I have heard some of it, and there is an element, especially in the melodic side of things, that there are a lot of parallels, and I can see that like being catchy as a result. Plus, you've like reimagined it into, the setting, the jungle setting of the game and everything else. So works really well.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to technicalities, I'm not actually that technical when it comes to music. I know what a major chord is, and if I want a minor chord, I just drop the bass down by 3, minor chord. And
Done.
that's as complicated as it gets for me.
That's great. Well, I mean, it's obviously effective. We're still here 30 years later talking about the same piece of music. So
Yeah, I mean, depending where you stick the bass, and, it makes lots of chords, doesn't it? Lots and lots
Yeah.
of different chords.
Oh, totally. Like writing with like a pedal that is, a pedal point that is, unified across stuff. You can shift the chords around there quite effectively. And I think the biggest thing that you bring to the table is these really catchy melodic writing, and that'll carry so much. You have incredibly simple chords, even if you want, and these effective melodies, and with just the right amount of repetition, and it'll stick with people for decades. If you've done it right, and I think you'd have. I mean, this is good stuff.
And
Yeah, all I can do is apologize. So,
I mean, a lot of this arrangement specifically was trying to translate the electronic effects and samples that were used then to be idiomatic or work in a brass way. So, if you're the type of person who's going to go back and study the score later on from this stream that just scrolled by, like the low brass parts are all playing an interlocking part that's like mostly 16th notes that a bassist can play, but a trombonist on their own is not going to be able to be happy about. But it's spread out in a way to make it still sound like synth sound. Horns are doing certain techniques, alternating on one note to sort of sound like they're oscillating in a way like that. So that's kind of the big goal behind some of this, is how do we make the sound like the original did, but with our band, and like still evoke the same textures basically.
yeah, I can see that. I can see the technical challenges that you'd have in trying to emulate that, especially when I'd found this technique of taking single cycle waveforms, like little tiny waves with different resonance peaks on them.
Mm-hmm.
And the bass line is just doing that because I can. But what I can do.
well, and so with that technology, like you're sequencing echo manually, right? Like you would have one line doing a thing and then you literally copy paste or read, right? Like you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was all typed in, so I was copying a subroutine and putting it in the right place in the code, and off it would go.
Yeah, wild.
And then because everything had to line up, that subroutine couldn't quite be the same length, so you'd have to go in and chop the exact amount of math from the end, so it didn't, you didn't have any problems. Or if it did run over, you'd have to always be aware of how much the run over was, because otherwise your 8 monophonic channels would go out of sync, and then you could spend hours looking for that one missing piece of code.
Wow. Thank goodness for technology today.
Oh yeah, it makes it a whole lot more enjoyable. But we're talking about catchy melodies, and I think some of that is because I had to listen to it over and over and over and over again. And so after a while, if I didn't like it, it would really annoy me. So you'd have no option but to go and like, I've got to get rid of that bit. That's going. If I hear that one melody one more time like that. But the good part of that is that when it comes to making a melody flow, that it's a really important thing, and small changes get big gains.
That's really profound, actually.
Yeah.
And it's the difference between the melody working and being pleasing to listen to, because you can bear to listen to it 200 times, and it not working. So if you're struggling with melodies as a composer, I just stick it on for ages and ages, and then eventually the bits I don't like annoy me and I change them.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. That's very good. Yeah. Like so often as you're writing, you just end up in it, like listening to something in a loop or playing it over and over again as you're like adding more and more layers to a thing. And then I'll like go away and sit with it sometimes if I have time. And then you realize like this is annoying me. This part grates, or this little element, and you come back and tweak it and take it away. But like, yeah, I can only imagine what it's like when you're working on it on like a code level, as opposed to just writing it or recording it into a DAW like we have now. So much easier. That's incredible.
Let's go back to that for a second. So your process, then you had to write the music and then turn it into a subroutine, you said.
So, I mean, I could, at the time, I could visualize the pitch in my head and just type it straight into the computer.
With like a time value.
With a time value, a pitch value, a time value, and various other subroutines that we use to add wobble or pitch shifts on there. So I could hear it here and type it in. I mean, that is bad. That's not healthy.
Like those people who can like write down hex codes for colors by seeing them. Like,
exactly.
No.
It's not good. It's not the way
No,
forward.
that's incredible. That's like a huge flex, frankly.
That's great.
That's awesome.
So I don't recommend that. That's not the way forward. But yeah, that was where we were. And that's why since doing that kind of stuff, I've never gone back to it, because it's frightening. I've just, life's too short. There's more important things to do than type music.
People like you and, other composers, like you're working at that era, like you did that stuff. So now we have better tools to work with, that makes it easier, for you now, as well as for
sure.
People who are starting out, who are, just, getting into it, or have been working on it, for 5 or 10 years, like, Robbie or myself. This is, or Thomas, like this is, we have the tools that we have because, people like you are working on this stuff with typing in code and copying subroutines to, echo things and just altering the pan or whatever other things you're doing to tweak it. That is absolutely incredible.
It's incredible is probably the wrong word.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Incredible for us in hindsight.
Yeah.
But it's
Fortunate.
Nice. It's nice that they have good libraries, from Spitfire Audio and lots of other places.
Yeah,
because it's so much more rewarding and enjoyable as a composer to get something that you actually enjoy listening to much more. Because with those soundtracks on the SNES, it was always a compromise, as in that's as good as we're going to get it. But there was never a piece that got converted. It was always the original. So the sample set that I had to work with was the sample set I used. Was never a better sounding sample set. And that was the palette to work with.
Yeah, nowadays, like you'll end up with stuff where if you are going to record things live, you'll have a mock-up that'll be pretty reasonable, but it won't be the final version. And you'll have that like disconnect between the working version, and then you'll get recordings in, or you'll go to a session, record there, and then you'll get that final mix and something. Now it's brought to life, but there's something, I don't know, there's something to be said to having like the version that you're creating on the fly is the real version. And that means if it doesn't work here, it's not going to work for real. So you need to change,
Sure.
Kind of an instantaneous feedback, or even if it is clunky and slower, but still, super cool. Thank you for the insight into that process. That's incredibly fascinating.
Perfect.
That's cool.
Yeah, let's move from one David Wise piece to another. Keep the train rolling
we'll be
here.
going on to our finale here. I do want to just shout out again to all the other players that joined us on this. Avery on trumpet, Alana, Jordan, and Jackie on horn, and Allison and Eric on trombone. And then our percussion section. That last one had Doug Perry on Cajón. He'll be taking up the bongos in the next track. And Yusuf Rashid and Raul Vanamali. Raul covered the mallet parts, marimba, and vibraphone. He's very proud of his new marimba. 5 octaves.
And
It looks
It wouldn't
great.
be.
Wood sounds amazing. Call
so good.
Raul if you need some marimba parts. He loves using his marimba.
Sorry, hire him so he can pay for his marimba.
Right.
Yeah, that's the real thing. Please hire these people. They're wonderful. If you're listening.
And instruments are expensive.
Yeah,
They are.
and you are listening to our newest album, which this shouldn't be the last time you listen to it. It's available on all of your favorite streaming services, and probably some you don't even like. But most importantly, it's available on Bandcamp, thegamebrass.bandcamp.com, where you can have a permanent download of it forever that nobody can take away from you.
Those are strong words.
Yeah, and if you buy it today, the day it came out on release day, it also happens to be a Bandcamp Friday, so we get a little bit more money, which is nice.
Right, to go into the next album, the
Exactly.
next EP, the next spin-off, whatever happens next. Let's carry on then. Our last
Yeah, let's
track
move on.
here. Another
Indeed.
reason to have done this album, though this one's easier to throw up in something else. Actually, I kind of almost thought of including this in a previous album, but it didn't make the cut. It's almost made it on Brassino Isles. This is DK Island Swing from Donkey Kong Country.
Howdy.
Howdy. And there it is. DK Island Swing, the other most famous track from these games. There's a lot of most famous tracks here. And another one that sort of justified me wanting to do this whole thing was really just to finally do that piece. Endlessly covered as well. I actually have a slight special thanks, I guess, in the liner notes, where I wrote with a special... Oh, I lost it.
Don't get too far from your mic now.
So David Wise wrote that piece, but I wrote with additional inspiration from Grant Kirkhope, Yukio Kanioka, and Shogo Sakai, because there's references to a lot of the other versions of that have been arranged. The version we hear in Donkey Kong 64, the version we hear in Smash Bros. And then a melody that actually originated from 1981's arcade Donkey Kong and showed back again as the title screen music in Donkey Kong Country. So that all got smashed into that track. Probably the next hardest one to arrange because of more just to try to limit it to not go on for 10 minutes.
And make that one track turn into its own sub album.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, it all sounds very splendid. I don't think when people, when punters who don't play music but just appreciate music, how much hard work playing brass is, and especially with all those textures as well.
I got a lot of complaints on that one.
Yeah.
Feedback of, wow, this was very hard. For people who don't often complain back to me, who kind of gave me this was a pretty hard thing to do. Good job.
It's a hard album.
So even just keeping it contained is, you've got to be very controlled, haven't you, not to really let it rip when you really want to. So it's very impressive it's good. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's a good thing to arrange.
It helps when the source material is so good.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Allegedly. So.
All right. Speaking of the source material, we got a question. What is everyone's favorite Donkey Kong Country series track? I think I'm going to be pretty boring, and I'll say the forest interlude theme. I like that one.
I'm going to also be very basic and say Aquatic Ambience.
Sure.
I'm going to jump in here because I've never played properly any of the Donkey Kong games. I grew up with PC, so didn't have any consoles, but like coming to it late in the way we have, I really kind of love DK Island Swing. I know it's been probably the most widely reinterpreted one, and maybe that's why, but it's great.
We'll keep going down score order. John Stacey.
So it's going to be, for me, it was the Forest Interlude one, just because technically to do what it did took some thinking outside the box. So I was very happy with that one.
Awesome. I love that one. It's so good.
When it comes down to it, I'm still a kind of technical audio synthesizer nerd, so hence going to Super Booth next week. So that for me was my favorite.
Sweet.
Alex?
Sure. I hate having to choose because it's really hard, but I probably would say Sticker Bush.
Yeah.
But that could change tomorrow. Like on the day, I could be like, well, like this one's my favorite. No, this one's my favorite.
Well, yeah, I mean that happens for me with my personal sort of favorite tracks that I like to listen to regularly, change on a daily basis. So.
Yeah.
John, Stacey.
John.
Sorry, my internet was cutting out there for a minute, so I had to figure out what was going on by context. Credit Symphony. Actually, it's I'm probably one of the few people that's yep, that's my favorite one. But
the credits, yeah.
I love the credits.
Awesome.
My favorite Donkey Kong track is probably Gangplank Galleon. Not appearing on this album, but maybe one day.
We'll do that for our pirate album.
Yeah, for our water.
Our nautical album.
I have like 16 measures of an arrangement I wrote in, I don't know, middle school somewhere.
And a little bit of game brass.
Pirate album for what it's worth.
Yeah,
we've dressed up as a pirate a couple times, and it's great. All right, Robbie, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say a little bit of game brass lore for anyone who's new to the group. We we started off trying to do like the Castles album, whatever, in 2017. It took us 4 years or whatever to complete. But from 2017 or 2018, we started doing what we now affectionately call the Four Seasons. Starting with Snowtopia, that was our winter album. Then we did Brassylvania, our fall album. Then we did I'm blanking on the name. Oh my goodness,
Brasino
Isles,
Cruise.
which was our summer album, and now this is our spring album. Sorry, not this, but this is a part of Brassroots, the larger spring project, which we should probably, as we're wrapping up the stream, we should probably introduce a little bit better.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Barrel Brass is a smaller part of the Brassroots project, which is our final and fourth season. Circle.
Seasons not appearing necessarily in order, but there you
Yeah.
go.
Your guys' audio probably cut out because I showed the album art, and I guess I didn't set up the stream right. But it is there. They can hear me though. But there's your album art for our Brassroots, coming out one day soon
Yeah.
to complete our 4-season cycle. Nature-themed music, and we might even have something from there tonight.
Yeah, this is one more thing.
One more thing.
Yeah, who can say?
Thank you, everyone, for
Yes.
watching tonight. Thank you to all of our collaborators. And, of course, the biggest thank you to David Wise for joining us tonight. Appreciate you coming out tonight.
You're too kind. Thank you very much for inviting me. Really appreciate it. And thank you for making such an awesome job of the album. Amazing stuff.
It's been a huge pleasure having you. Thank you.
It's
Thanks so much.
fun stuff. Yes, thank you. All right, so
I was going to say, I'm still rough that people actually want to make covers of the stuff that I did decades ago. So,
So
you know,
welcome.
still wrapped. So thank you.
of course it is, and it's a great outlet. Some of us, I mean, when I have to do other work that's music related, this is sort of sometimes the work I want to do to back up the stuff that maybe is not always as fulfilling. So it's always nice to keep working on this stuff and to have you here too. All right, well, that's our latest EP spin-off of an upcoming album, Barrel Brass, a nature suite from Donkey Kong Country. Every track was specifically picked to fit that nature theme. That's why there's no aquatic ambience. Sorry, everybody. You'll have to wait till our water album. That is not an official
Water is not
confirmation.
nature. You heard it here.
Water is not nature. Trees and plants are is the rule here.
Only
But
mushrooms.
we've got one more thing to share for you. One of the tracks from this upcoming album. We'll sign off with this. So thank you all for coming again, watching the stream. So now please enjoy, not a Donkey Kong track, but this is Kokiri Forest from Ocarina of Time.
Excellent.
Good night, everybody. Thank
Good night.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Right.
Good night.